So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a frame variable, and it's going to either be frame 0, 1, or 2, and that will be our starting point. And basically we'll cut out this if it's frame 0, this if it's frame 1, and this if it's frame 2. Simple, right? Easy peasy. So what this variable is going to be is a float variable. And yes, I know what floats are because I've been using doubles quite a bit, and someone commented, hey, don't you know what a float is? And I'm like, oh yeah, I probably should be using floats, huh? So we're just going to use a float value, and we're going to call this float frame, and we're going to set this equal to be 0. Start out with, right? So now what we're going to do is try and draw the same image. So our frame set to 0, and our draw image is all set up. But what we want to do is we actually want to adjust with the y values. So we're going to say y value times frame. And also for this y value, where we want to cut out, we want to say times frame as well. And right away we're getting an error because, again, frame is at float. We have to cast it as an int. And cast it as an int over here. And there we go. We're good to go. And then all we want to do is take, instead of this being 0 times frame, I'm sorry, this was supposed to be 40 times frame. And then also for this y position, we're going to have 40 times frame plus 40. So let's go to our sprite sheet, and I'll kind of explain what we're doing here. So we're going to open this up, and as you can see, if we start this now, frame is equal to 0. So 0 times 40 is going to be 0 for for our y position of where we want to start. So it's going to start the position 0, 0 here. And then for our ending position, we're going to have a value of 120 and a y position of, this will be 0 plus 40. So it'll end right here. So we would cut out this first section if our frame was equal to 0. But let's try it for 1. But if frame was equal to 1, we'd have a starting position of 0, 40, as you can see here, because 1 times 40 is 40. So we'd start here, and then we'd have the ending position of 120, and then frame times 40, so that'd be 40 plus another 40, so 80. So that would cut out this section. And that's kind of how that works. We'll just cut out different sections according to what frame it currently is. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into our update method and kind of update our frame for us. So all we're going to do first is set up an integer value, because again, well, I'll explain that in a second. We're going to call this tester, and we're going to set this equal to be frame plus 0.1. Actually, we'll just say 1 for right now. It's kind of easier to explain. And what we're going to do is we're going to cast this as an int. So we have that set up, and then what we're going to do is we're going to set up if statement. So we're going to say if tester is less than 3, and all we're going to do is we're going to say frame plus equal 1, and else frame frame equal to be 0. And you don't need brackets if you only have one line of code. So all we're doing is we're first saying, hey, if we add 1 to our current frame and then we cast it into an integer value, what will that integer value really be? And then we're going to take that integer value and say, hey, if that's less than 3, because again we've already added 1 to it up here, so this is basically if our frame is less than 2 is what this is saying, but since our tester variable, we add 1 to it already, we're going to say if tester is less than 3, all we're going to do is we're going to add 1 to our frame, else we're going to add or set our frame back to be 0. So we just cycle through 0, 1, and 2. Right, let's just save it, run it. I'll show you guys what we have so far. Well, we only have one other modification. So as you can see, it looks decent, but it kind of looks kind of weird. All the blood and sweat we put into the sprite sheet isn't really getting the justice because it looks like it's going way too fast or something. So let's go back into our code. and we are going to change this point, or this 1 to 0.1, and this 1 to 0.1 as well. So this is kind of why we had this as a float value, because let's say if our frame was 0.3, we're going to say if 0.3 plus 0.1, you know, what is that? 0.4. But we have to cast that into integer value, so 0.4 would become 0. So our tester variable would be 0, and then we're going to say, hey, that's less than 3. Let's go down and we're going to add 1 to frame. So now it's just frame is going to become 0.4, and then when we cast again frame within our draw method, it's going to return a value of 0. And then it's just going to cycle through that until obviously we have like a 2.9, and then we add 0.1 here, and we're going to say, hey, is our tester less than 3? And we're going to be like, no, because it, you know, cast as a 3, and then we're just going to set it back equal to 0. Hopefully that makes sense. That's about the best I can do. Sorry guys if it doesn't. Kind of early for me, and deal with it. So now we have kind of a slower animation, as you can see here, and you can just obviously mess with the speed if you want, just changing these variables. But that's pretty much it for this tutorial. Again, what we can do is just, you know, cut out this box here. We don't really need this fill rec or this set color because we have an image now. So there we go. That's how we set up our platform image, and I hope you guys kind of enjoyed that, because it's kind of cool scaling images and messing around with them. But I'll catch you guys in the next tutorial. Have a good one. Peace.